go ahead and break into this. Sent you a few questions, and you ready to go?
You bet.
All right. So just let's start going way back to your childhood, as far back as you can remember when you started playing baseball. Like, who were your coaches and mentors when you first started playing?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was with Little League here when they got the field going, the Plainsmen field, and got all the Little Leagues going, and that's when I started. I started with Harry Larson was my coach, and I believe Bud Steven was helping out there, and played through Little League, and then hit Babe Ruth, and Doc was coaching. That would have been '63. Doc was coaching the Babe Ruth team.
Oh, okay.
So, that's when that's how I got the early start.
Mm-hmm. Doc was coaching. He was coaching the '63. You were on the '63 Legion team, right, Phil?
Yeah, but I played Babe Ruth with Doc was coaching the Babe Ruth, and I don't really remember how it worked out, how I ended up playing the Legion, but I think I started off with Babe Ruth with Doc, and then ended up, how that worked out. I don't know if I played with them between Babe Ruth games or if I just went and started playing with them, but I know I did a little both for a while.
Yeah, I remember when I was 15, I played Babe Ruth for Dad in Peerless, and then Legion for Doc and Scobey, and played in both tournaments, was rostered on both, So, yeah.
Oh, sure.
So in 1963, then, playing Legion, I have a picture of your team, and that's when Doc came back from Missoula. Were you 14 that year then, Phil? Was that your 14-year-old year?
Yeah, I believe I would have been. Yeah, an 8th grader. Yeah.
In '63, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, who taught you how to pitch? Who taught you how to pitch?
Well, actually, Doc did when I moved up to Babe Ruth. He worked with me, and then of course again when he got into the Legion, he still worked on it. But basically, it was just Doc.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because I think it was the same for Dana. I think Dana mentioned that Doc taught him how to pitch, especially because I know both of you threw your favorite pitch. I remember you were a curveball pitcher mostly. Is that right, Phil? Do I have that right?
Yeah. It was a curveball, and then the changeup was a curveball. And Doc also told me how to throw the overhead curveball, like it fell off the table. And I had to learn those, Joe. My blazing fastball wasn't very blazing at times. So.
But that's pitching, Phil. That's pitching, right? Yeah. My fastball was not blazing either, Phil. Yeah, and so I relied on my breaking balls as well. But that's part of how pitchers do it, right? That's part of the trade.
Yeah, and I guess I was fortunate because when I was on, I could hit the outside corner and basically low pitches, and I was very fortunate to be able to do that. Get by with that since I wasn't too fast with the fastball. So.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's the key is, being able to throw it for a strike, and then even being able to place it and you throw it when you're behind in the count, all of those things. A curveball by itself, doesn't do much, but when you can control it and place it and then throw it when you're behind in the count, then that really that's what made us the pitchers we were. And it sounds like that's exactly what your bread and butter was. I thought that was the case because I saw you play for the Plainsmen, and I remember seeing the ball break a lot when you pitched. Yeah.
How I got pitching, Joe, was in Little League one night, or it was before a game when we were over in the other field there, and Harry said, "Somebody get in and pitch batting practice." I said, "I'll do it." And I threw batting practice, and I started that game over on the field. That's how I started pitching.
Funny that you say that, because that's how yours started, pitching batting practice, right? It's just kind of funny how things
Yeah,
work out that way sometimes.
here to do it, and shoot, we went over to the game. He says, "You're going to start pitching." so ever since then, I pitched. But
That's funny. Can you remember who your catchers were at, when you played in Legion between 63 and 67? Who were your catchers?
Well, Don Paulson, but was the oldest one. But then Dan Smith was there, and so Don was probably more handy in the field. He could play just about anywhere, and so Dan Smith took over catching, 65 and 66, and then Craig came along. He caught some of 66 and all of 67. So, but I basically just those three.
Okay, yeah. I remember reading about all three of them. I knew about Craig. I didn't know about Don Paulson though. So yeah.
Yeah, he was catcher, and those were the three catchers that I had, and I don't know. I didn't pitch any in 63, and maybe you can fill this gap, but 64, I could not find an article on 64 on anything.
Yeah, 64, I've kind of got blank on that too. In some of the newspaper, like I have an archive with the major newspapers in Montana, as well as the Leader. And I haven't been able to find much, but I know, that would have been Doc's first full year after coming back from Missoula. But it seems to be kind of a dark spot. I have 65, with, that was the first year Dick started playing.
That's the year covered well, but, and the Leader had a picture, the start of 64, but there was nothing afterwards.
Yeah.
I thought over to Plentywood and check theirs to see if it maybe even covered the tournament or anything like that. And I could talk to some of them guys, and I couldn't find anybody that could help me with it.
Yeah, that would have been your 15-year-old year. Yeah, let me see if I can keep digging. I've been, working with Burl Bowler at the Leader, and Ray Chapman goes over there and gets articles. And I know they had a fire. There was a fire that they lost the pictures before 66, I think. But that was just the pictures, not the articles. But yeah, let me make a note of let's figure out 64.
Yeah, I went through the Leaders and I didn't see any articles.
Yeah, it's strange.
For 64.
Yeah, I'll have to check the major newspaper archive and see if I can shake something out. But I don't think I've been able to find anything.
That was just kind of funny. I thought there was a void there, because the rest of the years were covered pretty well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and you can see the ramp up to 69 year by year.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
As all of those players like your last year was 67, but Craig and Dick, and I think maybe Rocky Ware and some of those other players started in 65 too, playing on that 65 team.
Yep.
Can you remember? Does a game stand out in your mind, Phil, as one of the best games you ever pitched? Is there one game that kind of you think about when you think about your pitching career in Legion?
Well, the one that sticks out is from 66, when that was the year that we had the trouble with the disqualified players and such. And when Glendive was disqualified, we were given we had to play Plentywood over in Sydney for a playoff game to get in, and they had Gary Peterson, I think he was. He'd burned us a couple times during the season. He was a very good pitcher, and so we went to Sydney to play, and I pitched that game. We ended up winning 4-2, but it was really a battle. The Glendive people and some of the players were over there, and they gave Doc a heck of a bad time through that whole game. And so that was, they didn't bother any of the players, but they sure were asked for Doc, you know, because of the disqualification. And but that was a game, and we won that 4-2 through all of that. And you know, we were going to state. And the next, I remember Mom coming downstairs saying, "No, we can't go to state." She'd waking us up because we were supposed to leave that day. And then that whole thing, you know, with Dan Smith was disqualified. So that was kind of a tough year for us. But I remember that game just because of what Plentywood had given us trouble that year, and we finally won one, and so, but that one sticks in my mind, Joe. On the
yeah, you know, it's funny. I thought that might be the game that you mentioned because it was covered pretty well. Partly because, you know, I think it was such a good game, but partly because there was a lot of media attention on that Glendive tournament, with Glendive getting disqualified after they had, I think, even won the championship. And then Sydney, you know, they got the championship because of that, and then you played off against Plentywood. And there's one headline, I think Plentywood won like all the games in the conference, and then they lost 3 games in that divisional tournament and went to state. And it says that, like, the headline is something about, you know, Plentywood bewildered by, you know, like they were thinking that maybe if they would have lost a 4th game, they would have automatically been awarded the state championship, you know?
Yeah, because Plentywood got to go, and I think it said something about because of the fine season that they had,
mm-hmm.
You know?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's that must have been quite a deal there down in Glendive, and
yeah, that was a fiasco, you know. And I think the commissioner, well, you've probably read the articles, you know. Instead of taking it any further, you know, he just, you know, declared Dan Smith ineligible, and I guess maybe that was the correct decision. I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah, I think it had something to do with moving. If the parents move at a certain time, I think when the player is rostered, and I think they had moved to Havre in Dan's case, and I think if where they're moving to has a Legion post, I think they're supposed to get rostered at that new Legion post if the family moves by a certain time.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. And the same thing happened for the Glendive player. I think his parents had moved to Casper, Wyoming at a certain time, and both those players were rostered on Glendive and Scobey, but should have been playing for Casper and Havre. At least that's what the article said, right? But yeah.
That's basically it right there.
Yeah. So.
But I got another game, too, that I brought back memories. It was, I think, a 65 game against Wolf Point when we I think it was the first game of the season, and we went behind 7-0 in the first inning and ended up winning 8-7. And it was against a Wolf Point team. It was like they had a team that was unreal. It was like men against boys playing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how held on to win that thing after giving up 7 runs that first inning. But that was another one that came back to me. And you know, the Flaxville games were always good games. They were always good games. So, and some of those games I remember pitching against Marriage and Danny Tryon, and they were good ball players over there at those years. Higgins, John, and so those came back to me too. And 65, it was in Scobey with all those teams, 7 teams.
Yeah.
And Wolf Point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's that year. Yep.
Yeah, they walked through that tournament like nothing.
Yeah.
Wolf Point did.
Yeah, I think 65 and Wolf Point won the state championship.
They were really loaded, but they had other good years too. We played heck beat. That's why that game stuck out, because pitching against those guys was a lot of work.
Yeah, I had some games against Wolf Point myself, especially when I was younger, that were pretty rough outings. Yeah, they always seemed to have really good hitters and power hitters, and it was just it was really hard to, I couldn't, when I was younger, I couldn't get my, how you couldn't get your fastball by them, and then so you had to throw your curve, and then once they got onto that, there wasn't anything you could do, Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were big kids too,
When you didn't pitch, where did you usually play, Phil? What position did you usually play when you didn't pitch?
Shortstop. There was times when I might end up in left field, or just depending on the situation. I remember there was a couple tournaments where I got sent to left field or whatever. Dick would stay at shorts, and so it wasn't unusual for me to play different places. But for the majority, it was shortstop. And I remember there was one game Doc said, "Get in there and catch, Phil." I'm going, "What?" I'd never even caught before. He sends me in to catch. I catch that one inning, come back and drop the equipment off and says, "You can bench me, but I'm not going back out there to catch." I blinked too much.
I did too. I could never
Lord.
catch. Yeah. And then, my identical twin brother, John, he caught. He did okay behind the plate. I did it once in practice, and I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this again.
I got a new liking to those people who dared to sit behind there, because, boy, I'll tell you what, I was blinking. I thought, I'm going to get killed back here.
Yes, I know.
But that's basically, I pitched and played shortstop, and sometimes would go to a different position just for whatever the situation was in the game,
Phil, can you remember any funny stories?
No, I don't too many stories, but I got one on Dan Smith. He caught me quite a bit, but Smitty didn't really rip it back to you, so you could catch it every time if you were skipping off the ground. Well, one game he throws one back to me, and it hit one of the stones on Plainsmen Field, bounced up, hit me in the chin, and chipped my tooth. So I spit this out and look at it, and I look down there, and Smitty's sitting back there laughing behind the mask. I still have that chipped tooth.
Oh my God. Did he ever say he was sorry?
No. He just went and looked at it, laughed. But there was another time, Joe, when I think it was 73, because I wasn't playing, but Rick Danielson was still playing, and I can't remember. Do you remember what, in 73, I was helping Doc coach. I believe Rod Tandy was too, but did they play, was the tournament in Glendive? It seems like their district or divisional before state in Scobey.
Yeah, I think in 73, their divisional was in Miles City in 1973.
Oh, Miles.
Yeah, it was in Miles City.
Oh, it might have been there, but anyway, we were in Doc's room getting ready for the game and stuff, and he'd just given somebody a shot, and I turned around, and all of a sudden I felt something go through my uniform, the backside, and the jab. Here, Rick Danielson had taken that syringe and shoved it into me. And he laughed like a son of a gun. And Doc says, "God damn it, Rick, put that away before somebody gets hurt." And I said, "It's too late." And, back then, nobody thought too much about it. But if it had been a few years down the road, you'd have to watch that like crazy after he did that,
Yep.
So, but I don't have stories, John.
Phil,
Back then.
those two are good enough. Those are awesome. Oh my God, the needle. You got to needle a few times, did you, Phil?
Oh yeah, yeah. And he talked about his back that one time. I went to the office and got the arm and the back at the same time before one game.
Wow. Yeah, so that would be the Dan Wolf Terry Puckett special then, because Terry got it for his arm and Wolf got it for his back. You got both the same day. That's funny. Phil, can you remember, some of the best players that you played with or saw play during your career, your Legion career?
Well, on the '63 team, the holdovers or the super seniors that came back, Dwayne Sell and Charlie Mueller and Bill Thompson, they were kind of the heart of the team. There was a few younger guys, myself and Paulson and a few others, but I think of Bill Thompson a lot. He was all he did was pitch, but when he was on, he was unstoppable. And I don't know if you've heard of his pickoff play. I know I talked to Charlie Mueller a while back, and I still remember Charlie saying that there was many times when Bill would pick somebody off and throw it to Charlie, and Charlie would have the ball in his glove, and the runner was standing there looking at him. That's how good his move was.
I heard that from Rod Tandy. Rod Tandy. Yeah, that he was a left-hander, right? Bill Thompson.
He was a left-hander.
Big left-hander. Yeah.
He's one of them guys that I hated even playing catch with him because his ball moved so much just playing catch. And I remember Dan Wolf saying, was it Terry Puckett had a hard ball?
Yeah.
It felt like a hit ball. That's how Bill's was too. Mm-hmm. And he did pitch a no-hitter down in Sydney. And when he was on. But he could have little control problems at times. But he was a darn good pitcher. He played, actually, I think he came up when he was 13. He played 6 years for Doc.
Yeah, maybe in 59, 58 or 59. Yeah. I think he played the first year for Doc in 59.
Yeah, and went through 63.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And, another story is I was playing shortstop in that 63 team, and once in a while you'd boot one, and I don't know, whoever's pitching, Dwayne or Charlie or Bill, they all pitched, but you knew it was coming. They'd kind of look over and give you the stare. Mm-hmm. Didn't say anything, but and I remember Wayne telling me, down the road, years later, we were out the golf course, and Wayne was telling me, God damn it, he said, I hated that stare. And I guess I did the same thing to Wang and turned around and give him the stare, but Wang didn't boot too many. He was a good second baseman, but I remember getting it from some of these older fellas.
Yeah.
And moving on, Don Paulson was a good baseball player. He was a good catcher. He could pitch. He could play infield. He's just a great all-around player, and I put him on there as another fine player. And you wouldn't probably know Randy Peck. And I could not. He played through 65, and he graduated in 66, but I wondered if he didn't leave Scobey because I couldn't find him playing in 66. But anyway, Randy he played left field, and he was the type of guy that would run through the fence to catch one, and he could hit the baseball, and he was the most excited guy on the team. I mean, he loved baseball, and I wish he was still alive because he would know every single story there was. And but I don't know what happened to him after 65. And I know they left Scobey, but I can't remember what year it was. But anyway, Randy was that type of kid that was fun to have on the team. And as far as any other great players, you know, 65, 67. Between that, I think we only lost like 4 or 5 players off those teams. And when you look at them all, they all contributed. I mean, you know, we had Wang and Craig and Dick and myself, Paris French, Rocky, Terry Lapierre, Bill Dale, John Nelson, George Heath. They all stayed through those whole 3 years. So how do you pick one guy that's the greatest? There just wasn't on that team. Down the road, you know, Craig went on and Dick went on and played college, but for the most part, somebody always come through for us when we needed it. Especially getting to the state in '67. Maybe I could talk a little bit about that '67.
Absolutely, let's do it.
Okay. I remember reading in the Leader that, and I think that tournament with that divisional was in Plentywood too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But anyway, they had us as the Cinderella team. Scobey upset Sydney and Glendive to make it to the state tournament, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't find any information on the games of like Sydney and Glendive. I can't tell you who pitched, or I can't remember if I did or not. We had to play Plentywood on Monday night to see who got first and second, because we only had one loss, I guess. Mm-hmm. And they beat us 6-5 to take first. But I was kind of, I don't know if you have anything, John, but I couldn't find anything about those Sydney and Glendive games and who pitched and how that went. But I think we had a little incentive in '67 after the fiasco in '66. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of '67, the parents thought wasn't going to coach, and I know the parents went and talked him into it, and that might have been a little bit because of what happened in '66, but we had a little incentive in '67 to get back there to the state.
Yeah, and that was the first year that Scobey made it to state tournament. Was your last year in 1967? If it was in Great Falls. Yeah, it was the district. Yep. Yeah, the district was in Plentywood. Yeah, I do have some stuff on those games, Phil. I think Glendive, they were both favored. I know the Plentywood, it was in Plentywood, so the articles were always, up and coming Scobey, right? Scobey upsets, Glendive upsets Sydney. I think, yeah. Then Plentywood had to beat you twice to make it to the champ, to win the championship. Yeah.
Yeah, that Plentywood had our number, and then at state, I think we beat Great Falls first game and lost to Cut Bank.
Yep.
And then lost to, then beat Haver. I think Dick Puckett pitched that game, if I'm not mistaken. And then guess who comes around and knocks us out? Plentywood.
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah.
Zuni McLean was playing for him then. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a good ball team. But anyway, I know that most everybody on our team was wanting to get back to winning that and getting to state, and somebody was with us when we upset Sydney and Glendive, because they had good ball clubs too. But
yeah, and the I don't know if you remember. I mean, I have the archive in the Glendive game, which was your second game at the district. You were behind, I think 3-1 in the ninth, and scored 3 runs in the bottom half to win it, and you walked it off. And you pitched that game. It ended up 4-3, and it it says Glendive had a 14-3 record. They came into the ninth with a 3-1 lead. And they scored on it. Glendive shortstop made a throwing error to first with 2 out and 2 runs scored. I don't know if you remember that. And so you walked it off on a 2-run error.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, I didn't for pitching against Glendive that game, but
Yeah, that shows Phil Audet
yeah.
and Craig Audet. You went the distance. It was a 6-hitter, and yeah, you won the game 4-3.
Wow.
In the first game
Yeah.
against Sydney, and it calls both of them upset. Surprising Scobey. In a slugfest, that was 12-9. And for Scobey, it has Lapierre, and then Paris French. It would have been Paris French came in the second inning, and then went the rest of the way after Sydney had played it a lot of runs in the first 2 innings. I don't know if you remember that game.
It doesn't come back, but that was this team. Paris French really wasn't one of our starting pitchers, but like I told you, that everybody contributed on that team. There was no,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a fun season, and I was so happy for Doc and Marge when we went to state.
Yeah, what a difference between 2 seasons, right? I mean, the previous season you had ended it so horribly with the disqualification and all. It sounds like just all of the the crap around that, right? Just the all the negativity and stuff. And then when you said that, when I read in the paper that I think at the start of the year in '67 that in the leader has it that the parents, like Doc wasn't going to coach, and the parents just like kind of drafted him, right? Like, hey, you just really got to have you, right? We know we've got a good team here. And when you said that maybe Doc was really affected by what happened in '66, I mean, of course, it was 5 years, I don't know, but it sounds like that might have been what happened, because why would Doc not coach, right? That was he had passion for the game, and it just sounds like maybe that '66 season, the way it ended, he's just like, you know what, maybe I need to get away from this for a while. Do you think that might have been what happened?
I think it had a great part in it, Joe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he needed to get back in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Doc without baseball, that's just, I mean, hard to imagine. What was your relationship with Doc? Can you remember, any Doc stories as your coach, and then later on, when you were, you coached and then played for the Plainsmen?
I remember one thing was every year about July, I'd say, Doc, we going to get Tuesday off? He'd say, what's Tuesday? I said, it's the All-Star game. Hell no, we got work to do. You can watch that when you get done with baseball. Every year I asked it, question, and every year I got the same answer. Hell no, we got work to do. When you think back of it, he practiced all the time. We got back or played Sunday. We had practice on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a key to the Scobey baseball program. But, I never did watch the All-Star game after that.
When you said that about practice, I remember, when we played in the late '70s, I remember hearing players from other teams say, why is Scobey so good? And part of the reason is, why do they always win? Was because they practiced. And they whenever that, I think, first Saturday in April came, that might not have happened this year.
No.
But when the first, I think Saturday or Sunday in April came, we were on the field as soon as the weather permitted, and it was every day, right? It was every night.
Yeah.
Whether you had track and field or whatever you did, it was practice. And like you said, during the season, you come back from a 5-game road trip, you got practice the next day, right? I remember the other players
Yeah.
saying that's why they thought Scobey was better than the other teams was because they
Yeah.
practiced so much.
Doc
Something.
Beach had the equipment, the first pitching machine was that crazy arm, but it worked. And then we got the 2 tires, and he just made sure we had the stuff to practice with. But I had a good relationship with Doc, and started that with Babe Ruth, and it just got better. And I used to do a lot of work over Doc's yard, planting trees and rotating the garden, and put in a couple sump pumps in his basement. Annie thought I lived over there for a while, but at any rate, yeah, we got along good. It could be in the winter time, and Doc would give me a call. Come on over to the house, Phil. And I'd get over there, and he'd say, "What do you think of these new uniforms that we're going to get?" And just talk baseball. It didn't matter what time of the year it was, and so we had a good relationship. And I remember Marge. At times, I would go over there and we'd talk baseball, and I always thought she was like the general manager, never far away from the dugout. And I think she advised Doc a lot of times on some of the kids, on what kind of a kid that guy was, and she did a lot more than people realized. She was a very good person.
Yeah, every player that I've talked to, that's written a letter, that I've interviewed, they don't mention Doc without mentioning Marge. And I mean, of course, I feel the same way. I mean, she was, on Mother's Day today, the day that I'm interviewing you, I think it's appropriate that we really, just recognize how without Marge and without her contribution, all the success of the Scobey teams and Doc and everything, she was as much a part of it, maybe even more, right, than he was. She was just amazing, took care of everything. And yeah, I think it's appropriate on Mother's Day that we talk a little bit about her. Do you have any memories of Marge, off the baseball field or on the baseball field you could share?
Well, Marge always drove, of course, and some of them games in Glendive would get over. We were traveling back to Scobey at 1 o'clock in the morning, and said, "Marge, you don't have to follow that fast." And she was just tired, and she'd roll down the window just to get cold air, just to stay awake, and never complained a bit. Such a positive person.
No, I know.
Even her, yeah, she was so positive.
Yeah, I remember that too. She was always so cheerful, and never had bad things to say about anyone. After your Legion career, what happened after Scobey, your last year in '67? Did you go on to play in college?
Well, I went to college at Western Montana College in Dillon, but I didn't go to play baseball. I got a job in the kitchen, so helped pay for a lot of my education there. But come springtime, I did get a call from the coach to ask if I wanted to play baseball, and come to find out, Bob McChesney, who I played against in Sydney for all those years, was playing baseball there, and he had mentioned my name, so that helped me get out of the kitchen and play baseball. So that's how I got playing baseball at Western.
Uh-huh.
And I remember that we had a playoff game with Eastern Montana College to see who was going to go to the tournament in Medford, Oregon. Of course, we got beat, but it was an exciting season, and I really enjoyed that. And then the next year, I transferred to Northern, and I played baseball there too. And it so happened that guys on that team were like Perry Miller. He played baseball at Sydney, And then Dan Copeland and Doug Shepard played for the Havre Legion team. So that was fun. And one of the coaches one year was Tom Nielsen, who coached the Havre team for many years. So I enjoyed played a couple of years at Northern, and I didn't play my last year. Had to put my education before baseball. I know that's hard to believe, but
yeah.
So and then Northern wins it that year and goes to Medford, Oregon. The year I didn't play. So, but so that was my. And then of course when I came back to Scobey, I played Plainsmen, for a few years, but till some of them younger guys were moving in there, and I decided it was time to bag it. So,
yeah. Yeah, many memories of the Plainsmen teams, barnstorming in Canada, any of the...
Oh, yeah. Those were some good teams and good tournaments.
Yeah, I have a picture of I think it's the 72 team, and I think, you're on it. It goes back to, I think 67 through 71, because both Jack and Don Higgins are on it, and, Rocky Ware, Lapierre, Craig Audet. Dick wasn't in the picture because he had gotten injured, but all of those players, Jim Hansen, I think, that must have been quite a team. I mean, those, and like as you mentioned, those players that you played with, in 65, and as the ladder ramped up to the 69 championship team, it was those same players, and they were all good, and you didn't really call out any one of them separately. They were all just really good. But that must have been the pitching staff you had with Hansen and Lapierre and Dick Audet, I mean, you guys had to have done some serious damage up there in Canada.
Oh, yeah, we won a lot of tournaments up there.
I bet you did. Yeah. Yeah, just it's like an all-star team, just looking at that team. Did you ever coach? I mean, you coached some in Legion, I think, after you played, right, Phil?
Yeah, I think the only year I helped was in 73.
Yeah,
I was down to that's the only team that I'd actually helped coach. And I think Rod Tandy helped with that one, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that was the year that I think they beat Wolf Point in the championship game in 73.
Yeah, they did. It was, they had Wolf Point came through the back door, and they beat Scobey the previous day to force the extra game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And Terry's arm was done, notwithstanding Doc's needles. Terry couldn't pitch, their ace, and Dana pitched the championship game. I mean, they had good pitchers, on that team in 73, besides Terry. They had to win it. But, I think Dana pitched the championship game in 73. I think he was the winning pitcher against a really good Wolf Point team again. Scobey beat Wolf Point in the championship in a lot of tournaments, some really good Wolf Point teams. That one you mentioned, I think in 65 was, they, not that year, but not that year.
No,
that was a good team. Yeah.
No, I think Carmen Birchville, if I remember correctly, was pitching for Wolf Point.
Yeah,
he ran out of innings, and that's when Scobey had a pretty good inning, I think, and went ahead.
Yep.
In that 73 game.
Yeah, in Scobey. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So moving on from Scobey, Daniels County, just got a couple questions for you here on kind of the national stage of baseball. Do you have a favorite Major League Baseball team, and why did you start following them?
Well, in the 60s, I kind of liked the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, because you could get them on the radio.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
It seemed back back then, you know, you'd go into a house and they'd have the Minnesota Twins on the radio, you know, and so I kind of just got hooked on them for a while, you know, with Killebrew and Crew and Oliva and some of those. But and then when McNally went to the Orioles, of course, I jumped on that bandwagon for a while.
Yeah, the Montana boy.
And yeah. So, but other than that, I followed a little bit, you know, not too much anymore. Maybe the World Series, you know, but I'd rather be out golfing than watching a baseball game, I guess.
That's good. I think that's healthy. Yeah. I mean, maybe if you can weave both in on the same day, that's a pretty good day, though.
Yeah.
It's funny how the Orioles seem to be the team that great Montana pitchers landed on. Jeff Ballard from the Billings Scarlets, I think, pitched for the Orioles, made it through up in and pitched in the major leagues for the Orioles. And he pitched against, well, I don't think he pitched against us, but he was on the Scarlets team that we played against in '79 in the state tournament, and then at Cobb Field, and that team made it, you know, he made it to the Orioles organization. But I always, if a Montana boy makes it, you know, I'm like, you know, they might not be my favorite team, but if they're not playing my favorite team, I'm going to be rooting for them, right?
Yeah. I just thought of something, Joe, that I'll throw in here.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Dan Wolf talking about the home run that Craig hit at a Cobb Field. I remember Craig telling me that Ed Bain sent the bat boy after that ball when he hit it, and then he presented it to Craig after the game, which I thought was pretty dang nice.
Wow.
Ed, yeah.
Yeah, that is amazing.
So,
you know, Ed and Doc were really good friends, weren't they? I understand. I think Doc was from Billings, and I think they knew each other when they were younger.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and where you talk about a legendary coach, I mean, like Ed Bain, if you look at the number of Legion titles, the Billings, you know, I mean, it was just Billings back then. It was just the Royals. There wasn't the Scarlets, but I mean, I want to say like 15, 20 years in a row they won the state championship, and I think he was their head coach all of those years.
Yeah. You know, I talked to Ed Baines Jr. Several times, and he went through all of what his dad did to set up baseball in Billings. It was just unbelievable. You know, helped to get the Scarlets going and that. You'd really be interested in that, Joe, but he's quite a visitor on that. So, so Ed was quite a guy.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know that I can't find, like, on that the 1931 team, Scobey's first American Legion team, that first year they made it. They played Billings. They won the district, and then they played Billings to go. You might have seen I posted the box score. But Ed Bain was on that team that played against Scobey in 1931.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, he was, I think, 15 or 16 years old at the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he's in the box score. Yeah. So, yeah, he has a connection back to Scobey back even then. Yeah. And I don't know. I've always searched to try to find Doc and Ed playing together, but I've never been able to do that. I don't know how far apart they are in age or whatever, but yeah, I know they knew each other because Kelly has mentioned it to me. But what a legend he is.
Yeah. I was wondering, you know, usually their schedule's set up pretty early. I sometimes wondered how Doc got those games, if they just worked it in or if they were actually on the schedule.
Yeah, I think. You know, like my last year, we got really lucky because it really helped us in '79. There was a IGA tournament over the 4th of July in Billings, and the Casper, Wyoming, Aurora, Colorado, Colorado Springs, and the Scarlets and Royals were there. And I think they had a sixth team that canceled, and then we got penciled in. The Blues, so we got to play 5 games down there against those really good teams, right? And we beat the Royals and the Scarlets, and we were in close games. We lost by 1 run to Casper, 1 run to Aurora, and Aurora had won the Colorado High School state championship just a month earlier. And
wow.
And then Colorado Springs, we played them tough, but it gave us confidence. We knew, like Danielson pitched a 1-hitter against the Royals, and we beat him 2-1, and then we beat the Scarlets. It gave us the confidence that we needed to go into the A playoffs, with the Senators, and then we won 2 games in the state A, and it was all a big part of that was knowing that we could play with those teams and have the confidence to stay on the field with them and even win. And those tournaments and those trips that Doc, like you mentioned, Craig Audet's home run on Cobb Field against the Royals. That was in '69, right? I would think a week before the state tournament. Yeah. And those playing that better competition that made all those Scobey teams better. Those are such a big part of, I think, Doc's recipe for success was getting those games scheduled.
Absolutely. Yeah. Their pitching, the pitching is just a step up, and they hit the baseball a little bit harder, but when you know you can do it, it helps.
Yeah, confidence. How, and as a pitcher, I'm sure from one game to although even during the season, like there's times like if you don't have confidence in your pitch to make the pitch, you're just not gonna make the pitch, right? I can't, I can't throw that, I can't get it by him, I can't. And then there's other times like you get on a stretch where you really have confidence in your pitches, and it's like you have the confidence you're gonna get it by him. You know what I'm talking about, right, Phil? You had to have experienced that.
Yeah, when it's going good, it's going good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about pitching, I don't want to change the subject again, Joe, but I had a note here that I remember when all the games were 9 innings back then.
Yep.
And you get thinking about that. That was crazy. And now they're 7-inning games, and I think Legion, they have a 106 pitch count.
Mm-hmm.
So once you reach that, and then even in Little League, I don't know if they do that, in Scobey or something. I know in Billings at Little League, they have a pitch count too, and it's right on the scoreboard. So, and I think that's probably helped a lot of arms over the years with that changing that from 9 to 7 innings and a pitch count.
Yeah, I know that high school baseball, I think, has always been 7 innings. Maybe not in the tournaments because they just know that there's just not enough pitchers to. But I mean, can you imagine those you can imagine. We played in these tournaments where they're 9-inning games. You have 4 days.
Yeah.
In some cases, you're playing 5 and 6 games over a 4-day period. And good staff. You got 3 solid pitchers, right? Sometimes 4. If you're lucky, and you just, there's a point where your innings, like John in the state tournament in '77, he pitched 10 innings against Cutbank the first day. He pitched an inning of relief against Glendive the second day, and 9 against Sydney in the championship game on Sunday. Right, he pitched 20 some odd innings in a 4-day span, right? But Phil, even like when Plentywood won the state championship in 1954, it's Plentywood's only state championship. Back then, you only needed 24 hours rest between to get your fresh 12 innings. So they had they had a big right-handed pitcher, Benson was his name, and they rode his arm. He was from Outlook, and I mean, so they would play a 2 out of 3 series, and you only needed 1 day of rest to get your 12 innings back. And so they'd pitch you. Yeah. Whereas when we played, it was you had to have 2 days rest, right? You had to have 48 hours, right? So if you pitched on Thursday, you'd have to take Friday and Saturday off, but you could pitch Sunday. But back then, if you pitched Thursday, you just needed Friday off, and Saturday you were good to go again.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So it was even worse if you go back. And those were 9-inning games too.
Yeah, it was exciting, Joe. I'll tell you that. Baseball was fun.
Yeah, hard to imagine life without it, isn't it? It's such a part of our lives up there. And
Yeah.
I know it's sad to kind of see the, like Danny Wolf mentioned, weeds on the field and not being able to field teams. And, he said it was a numbers game, and it is.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. I know that Tyler Buckland, from Outlook, he played for the Blues, and, he started a tri-county team in the West. I think it was Conrad, Fairfield, and Cutbank. I think they all three used to field teams, Conrad, Fairfield, and Cutbank. I think those would be the teams, but those counties, and then combined them, right, to play. And, they were called the Cardinals, I think, the Tri-County Cardinals. And, they had some success being able to do that, right, across those counties.
Yeah.
I know, when we played, we had Randy Stolen from Valley County, from Montana. And so we had, Valley and Daniels. And then there was a Peterson that I think Plentywood didn't field a team, I think maybe in 82. And Randy Peterson, I think, came to, I might even be Gary's, I don't know, I'm sure there's a relationship, pitched for Scobey because Plentywood, and then the Hagfelds from Glasgow, right? Dallas, Jay, and Mike, because, and Mike told me when, Dallas, I think, was the oldest, when he got there, maybe in, I don't know what year, 70 or 71, when they moved, Glasgow didn't field a team, and so Hagfeld had a farm in Scobey, so they came to Jay and Dallas came to Scobey to play, and that's how the Hagfelds ended up. Although from Glasgow, where they went to high school, played for Scobey for the Legion. So I guess the point of saying all that is, if it's a numbers game, maybe those kids could have an opportunity to play up there if those counties combined, to field a team, like, Sheridan and like, imagine Wolf Point. Now, I don't know do you know if Wolf Point still fields a team?
They're having trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of last year. I think they did last year, Joe, but it was real weak. It was one of the deals where some weeks they'd have 9 and some weeks they had 11 and then 8. But it didn't turn out too good. And I don't even know if they have one this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they were in that league with the B team or A team from Billings and Laurel and Glendive and Sydney. Sydney got a program going again, which I was really happy to see.
That's great. Yeah.
They had a weak team last year, but they're going to take their lumps until they can get it built up again. But I was so happy to see them because they always had a good program, and they had a beautiful field. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, is it Moose Memorial Park, I think, in Sydney?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That is a great field. I liked it. Although the one thing I didn't like about playing at Sydney was their infield, the outfield grass cut way too far into the infield, so you had to play I would play like a couple steps in the grass in left field when I played shortstop there because it was too shallow to play on the dirt. I don't know if you ever remember that, but yeah, but I'd always think if a ball comes and hits the lip of the grass and the dirt, I'm gonna get a bad hop at short. But there was no way I could play that shallow. Give up a lot of hits. But it is a nice park. It had that grass infield, and everything was really nice there. The stands,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Those kids are getting spoiled nowadays, though, Joe. I've been traveling around, and a lot of places have artificial turf infields now.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Perksfield and Billings has artificial infield, and the outfield's grass, but I've been to other places, too. I think there was where was it, in Wyoming? They had the same thing, and yeah. And then the other one's got really nice grass infields. I mean, it's just taken care of so beautiful, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids complain about hop off a real grass infield, you know, after playing on the artificial turf. But
yeah, yeah.
And you know, old Pebble Field, Plainsmen Field. I don't know what. Tried everything in the book to get them out of there, but they just came back.
Yeah. You know, I think that Legion, they called it the Scobey Athletic Park. I think it was 57 or 58 when it was, you know, that field was made, you know, with the lights and everything. And I don't think it had a grass infield. I think the grass infield started for the state tournament maybe in 69. Maybe it was before that. But I don't think it originally had a grass infield. But
no, it didn't.
Yeah, because I know they played fast pitch and little, you know, slow pitch and everything on that field. You know, I think when it was first.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they put a grass infield in there for '69 state tournament, which was the first state tournament Scobey hosted and won it. And then in '75. At the state tournament, it was really bad weather, and I know they had to treat the infield, and I remember some gas and fire to try to burn off the, you know, the wetness and stuff. And that was the last year of the grass infield was '75, and boy, was I sad to see that go at short, because you know, with that crushed gravel, you would get those scooting ground balls that were just. I mean, it was like the ball moved and it was hard. The ball moved as fast as if it was AstroTurf, but you didn't get the true hops. Right?
No.
Oh God, man, I got some bad hops at short on that with those, like you said, the pebbles, right?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Yeah, you had to be a brave soul to play infield on that baby.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Well, I hope this has been as much fun for you as it's been for me, Phil, because I mean, I just, you know, your stories that you told, you say you don't have any stories. You got stories, Phil. Just awesome, especially going back to those first teams, you know, that, you know, just to be able to understand what it was like, you know, in '63 and those players, and right, that's just awesome.
Oh yeah, and if we can ever find anything on '64 or what.
I will take that as a challenge. I'm going to try to see what I can shake out for '64.
Oh, one more thing, I'm kind of like Dwayne Seljo. One more thing, and then I'll let you go.
Of course.
But I understood you had a visit with my son in Burley here a while back in February.
Oh yeah, God, that was so awesome.
Maury.
Yeah, Maury. Yeah, we had a picture of when they went to the American Legion World Series in Fargo, I think it was, and Burley was getting a picture with Roger Maris that they had taken in the. Yeah, and that was such a great conversation. Oh my God. Yeah, I was sipping a bourbon, and I think Burley and Maury were sipping something on their end too, and we just had a great chat. Yeah.
So, well, that's all I got, Joe. I'll let you go.
Thanks so much, Phil. This has been awesome. Thanks, and have a great day. Maybe you can get out golfing.
Yeah, that's nice enough, too. Okay, Joe.
All right,
Thanks
Phil.
for calling. Take care.
Take care. You too. Bye-bye.